Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and this is the Astral Library. When this video is coming out, I believe it is October 2nd, right at the start of spooky month, and I am here for it. So today I have for you guys a TBR / recommendation video. Because I started school the last week, I don't have a ton of reading time, which is sad for me because I only have room to really fit one book on my TBR to kind of focus on making sure I get done. But to make up for the sad TBR, I do have a list of recommendations for you guys for spooky month, depending on what kind of mood you are for this time of year. Some people like really scary horror books, some people like a little more cozy. I hopefully have something for every type of reader. But before we get into those recommendations, I want to tell you what I'm reading for this month, and that is the classic Dracula by Bram Stoker. So I've actually never had a chance to read Dracula from start to finish. This is the month that I'm going to read this book. And as you can see from this beautiful pop art cover by Puffin Books, oh, I'm so excited to finally crack into this. Not only just because I get to stare at this lovely cover and even the back of his head, but because this is the vampire book. Oh, vampires are my favorite creatures. So I am stoked. I also think this is going to be a really interesting read because Dracula is actually an epistolary story, so it's told through journals and letters, which is not a type of book I read very often. So not only am I going to get a chance to dive into a classic, but I'm going to dive into a genre that is relatively new to me. I'm very excited for this. I think it's the perfect spooky month book. Also, it is finally a chance to get this crossed off my TBR for good. And now on to some recommendations. So the first book I have for you is one for all my mood readers and like vibe heavy readers. So someone who just wants to get into like an atmospheric, very like spooky, autumnal feel. And for that, I have Nettle and Bone by T.K. Fisher. So this is a book that I would just classify as all vibes. Very little story, all vibes, nothing too complicated, and a little bit cozy. If you're like into the more macabre and dark side of cozy, this is definitely the pick for you. So in the story, we are following our main character, Mara, who is this kind of abandoned princess who's been living her life out in a convent. And that is because her sister married the prince of the conquering kingdom and had sent Mara away so she would not be a threat to the throne because the prince and her sister have yet to have an heir. However, one day when Mara is going to visit her sister who has finally given birth to a child, she learns that not all is as it seems. Her sister is actually in danger from her husband. So Mara goes out on a quest in order to free her sister and kill the king. And along the way, she picks up quite a cast of characters, starting of course with a bog witch who kind of spearheads the mission and tells Mara what she needs to gather. This is like I said, a story that's almost all vibes. The writing itself is really beautiful. The characters are fun and interesting, but I would say you don't get too heavy of a plot. This is definitely more an atmospheric read. So if you're looking for something that's a little more cozy, a little more macabre, and not like spooky and scary, Nettle and Bone is right up your alley. The next recommendation I have is for all my mystery thriller people. And for this, I have the first two books in the Stillhouse Lake series by Rachel Caine. So that includes Stillhouse Lake as well as Kilman Creek. So the reason why I recommend these first two books together rather than separately is because this is where we get the complete story that is established in this first book, Stillhouse Lake. So these books follow our main character, Gina Royal, who was married to a serial killer and did not know it until one day someone crashes into the side of her house, wrecking her garage, which turns out to be her husband's killing room. We're following the kind of aftermath of that truth coming out, and Gina having to flee with her two children to a remote town where she has bought a house next to a lake, trying to escape the kind of pressure and reputation of her husband, who she had no idea was a killer. But even though she has run away and hidden herself to the best of ability, changing her name, erasing all her presence online, she is still being hunted by a fanatic fan. And when she moves into Stillhouse Lake, she is getting letters and messages that are threatening the safety of her and her children. This is a series that like gripped me from the very first moment. And by the time we get to Kilman Creek, I was gripped so hard. I tore through this book. I read it on a plane, and when I tell you, I was spooked. just because her husband and the kind of like horror thriller elements in this are so gripping and so fear-inducing that it makes you not want to put the book down as much as you want to put the book down because you're a little afraid. Like I said, I read this on a plane and I had like chills going down my spine. I was trying not to like shiver too much so the person next to me wouldn't think I was weird. But my mom was actually freaked out about this book. And she's like, I had to like put it down to like go back and read it during the day because she was so freaked out. These first 2 books in the series are amazing. And I really, really loved the characterization we have. I think Rachel Caine paced the story very well. But more than that, I think just the concept behind Gina as a character is really interesting because we're having this wife who no one believes her that she didn't know what her husband was. But we see from Gina's perspective that she was as much as a victim as her husband's other victims, even though he never killed her. Okay, the next recommendation I have is for anyone who's feeling like not reading too much this month, maybe just want something quick and easy, maybe still a little cozy. So for that, I have Witchlight by Jessie Zabarski. So this is a sapphic graphic novel, and of course with witch in the title, it fits right into spooky month. So in this, we are following our 2 characters, Sonia and Lilac, and Lilac is actually a witch who Sonia encounters in a marketplace and is instantly intrigued by her. So not only are we watching as these characters go closer, but also as their lives start to intersect and the secrets that our characters are trying to keep hidden come to light for better or for worse. So this is just a quick little short read. The art is just stunning. And again, it's sapphic. So perfect, quick little read if you want just something cozy, something fun, but also very much within the theme and mood for spooky season. All right, next I have still on the short side, but a bit more classic, a bit more leaning towards the horror side rather than the cozy side. And that, of course, is the short stories of Edgar Allan Poe. You cannot have a spooky recommendation video without talking about a master of horror himself. No, I'm not talking about Stephen King. I'm talking about Edgar Allan Poe, the original master of horror and the inventor of so many great things like the detective genre. I am a huge fan of Edgar Allan Poe. Not only are his stories super fun, but they're also just really quick and easy, and you can get great additions like this one I have here that not only have a stunning cover, but have spooky illustrations to go with it. I don't think I need to explain what Edgar Allan Poe's stories are. I think we've all kind of encountered them either through school or just your own reading, but some of my absolute favorite stories are Telltale Heart and The Raven. I think about them almost every day. They are my Roman Empire, but also Poe's poetry is also equally as haunting and thrilling. So I definitely highly recommend reading some Poe this month. All right, and the very last thing I have for you guys is for my more horror fans, someone who wants to dive a little bit in more on the spooky side. And for that, I have Hannibal by Thomas Harris. Really though, I would recommend anything in the Hannibal Lecter series, so whether that be Red Dragon, Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal, or Hannibal Rising. I think Hannibal Lecter is one of the best like horror thriller like bridge villains, and his books, they're downright creepy because Hannibal is such a creepy villain. I mean, he eats people for God's sakes. So this book in particular is the last book in the Hannibal Lecter series, but really you could read these books individually and I think you wouldn't be too lost. You might be a little lost in this one because Hannibal comes right after Silence of the Lambs, but the book does a pretty good job of kind of catching you up on who are the major characters. But in all these books, we have Hannibal Lecter, who is, how do you describe Hannibal Lecter? Hannibal Lecter is a psychiatrist who is also a cannibal and a serial killer. And throughout these books, we are following different stages of his journey. In this book in particular, Hannibal Lecter has escaped prison and is terrorizing Europe as an FBI agent, Clarice Starling, is trying to hunt him down before he can cause too much harm. As she's hunting him, Hannibal Lecter, ever the psychopath that he is toying right along with her and leaving her clues to bring her deeper and deeper into his games. This is my favorite book of all the Hannibal Lecter series. This is the one that really was like very spooky, because not only do we have just Hannibal Lecter himself, who is a very creepy individual, but we have his presence throughout the entire book as he's almost watching over our main character's shoulder. And we feel that presence with us more so than the other books where he has been imprisoned. In this book, he is free and can be lurking around every corner. Again, I adore Hannibal Lecter as a character. I love these books. They're super well written, they're well paced, and they're just so goddamn spooky. But again, I love these books so much and I highly recommend them. Okay, but that is it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please consider leaving a thumbs up and a comment down below. Let me know what books of these you've maybe read or what's on your spooky month TBR. I hope you have a little more reading time than I do. That is it for me. If you want to see more videos like this, I release a video every Monday and I've been having so much fun doing this and I cannot wait for you guys to see what else I have planned for spooky month. But that is all for me, so I will see you in the next video. Bye!